Sometimes I see people say Ellen sucks, and I'm here to tell you, you suck with Ellen. So let's fix that. I'm just kidding, but I love Ellen, and I've been popping into some Twitch streams, just in general been watching some people play Ellen. And now a lot of people mess up a lot of things when it comes to Ellen, because she is quite complex if you want to do some actual damage with her. So I thought I'd make like a 10-point list to improve your Ellen gameplay. And who am I? I'm an Ellen main, and I absolutely love playing the character. I got her maxed out, but for the purpose of the video, I'm borrowing my girlfriend's account. She has a very low investment on Ellen, so it's more applicable to, you know, the broader mass. So let's begin. My number one tip, like my absolute biggest tip when it comes to mastering Ellen, is mastering her flash freeze charges. Now, if we look up here at the top left corner, we see that we have an empty meter. It's like 6 snowflakes. Ellen gets these snowflakes by doing attacks in her roaming state. If I go in, and the roaming state is when we run around like this, and she's very fast. If I just click the button quick, we gain 1 flash freeze. But if we instead hold the button, we do a charged scissor strike. This will let us free. And the amount of flash freeze charges, they increase with M1. The M1 for Ellen is like a very big quality of life, because then she will fill up the entire meter with just 1 hit. Now, what a lot of people will do is that they will start doing an attack string with only 2 charges or less. That's not good. We always want at least 3 charges once we start to attack the enemy. Because if we look in the skill info, we look at Ellen's basic attack, we look at the flash freeze trimming, we can see that the first hit does almost nothing, the second hit does almost nothing. Then we can see that the third hit does 3 times the damage of the second one-ish, and more than 4 times the damage of the first one. And once we have these charges, every single attack will consume 1 of these charges. And you know that every character kind of has their bread and butter. Ellen's bread and butter is her third hit. Let's see it. 1, 2, and then 3. Now you can either hold or continuously tap the button to keep her in free, or to extend the third attack. But if I attack now with only 1 flash freeze charge, it's gonna look like this. And the damage is gonna be a lot lower. Now Ellen has 2 ways of getting flash freeze charges. It's either through attacks in the roaming state, or it is from her EX special attack. And what's nifty with her EX special attack is that immediately afterwards, if you click attack, she will follow up with the third hit of her basic attack string. So EX special.
Take this.
Boom. Then we can follow up with another one. So like a good Ellen combo, for example, let's get some charges. Now I have 3 charges, now I can do the full combo. So let's do it. And as soon as she grabs it back, we do an EX special, and then we continuously grab it. EX special. And brrr, just trim away. This is her basic rotation. And the core components of this rotation is energy and this flash freeze charges. Now, doing these attacks, like doing the charge attacks, they can be a little bit bothersome, but there are certain ways that we can ease this up. Let's have Dullahan start moving. Now, whenever Ellen perfect dodges an attack, she will gain a quick charge effect. Let's see if I can see it. No, it doesn't come up. But 5 seconds after Ellen has done either a quick assist or a perfect dodge, she gains the quick charge effect, which makes it so that her next charged scissor strike will be a lot faster. It's hard to tell, but usually it takes around 2 seconds. It takes around 1.5 with the quick charge buff. So after you dodge an attack, utilize that to refill your charges. And now a lot of people, they will complain that Ellen is very vulnerable when she does her charged attack to regain the frost charges. But you can actually be very far away from the enemy. Like when you're loading it up, we can be over here. And a lot of enemies, they won't reach and they will just be walking towards you. Remember, they made Ellen the fastest character in the game in terms of just moving around the field, just to leverage and utilize things like this. And like that, he is dead. Now, I will say, Ellen does lack, she lacks some iframes. It would really help if she had some super armor while doing the charge attack, because it's very easy to get hit out of the state. That's why I like running her with Caesar. With Caesar's shield just keeps her safe and you can keep doing your thing. Another thing is, since Ellen is very combo heavy, it is very, very convenient to bring a stunner with you. So let's allow Dalahan to be stunned. So since Ellen is so combo heavy, having any sort of stunner like really helps out.
Let's hurry it up. Yeah.
Another thing I see people do is that they used her ultimate when an enemy isn't stunned. Also, once again, big no-no. A stun enemy takes a lot more damage, so like always use the stun window for your ultimate. And now we use the ultimate while the enemy is stunned, and he takes a big chunk of damage. After that, we go straight into like doing our combo. As soon as the scissor come back, we do an EX special, same thing again. And now we're out of charges. We do a charge scissor strike. Basic combination. Now I've also seen some confusion regarding her EX special attacks, so let's talk about it. Ellen is one of the few characters in the game that has like 2 EX special attacks. And just like Miami, she can reach the second one by first doing her first one. So first one looks like this, then the second one looks like that. And the second one has like higher damage multipliers, it also covers a larger area. However, do you remember our basic rotation? Which is 1, 2, 3, EX 3, EX 3. Like you're kind of missing out a little bit on the rotation by doing that. If we instead would do 1, 2, 3, then as soon as it comes back, we EX special. It comes back, we EX special.
Get back.
If you just target single target, that will net you more damage. However, if you're fighting more enemies and you need the AoE potential of the second EX special, go ahead and do that. And remember, after we're done with the second EX special, we can also directly chain into our third attack. So like this.
Don't move. Take this.
And then if we still have energy, we can just, go back to doing this. Normally now your energy would be out, but we're in the VR training, so I put on unlimited amount of energy. Now Ellen is considered to be a very energy focused character, simply because if we have energy, we can skip a lot of the steps, get to her actual damage, which, what is her class? It is in large part her third basic attack. So now, for example, we see that the enemy is at 90% close to being stunned. One more EX special from lighter and this enemy is going down. Preferably in this situation now, we want to be sitting at basically a full stack of flash freeze charges and, hopefully enough energy to do 1 or 2 EX specials. Because we don't want to waste precious stun time to gather up our charges. It's kind of like packing for a trip, we want to be packed and ready to go. And preferably be pretty close to the ult, which we are. So let's stun this enemy. Stunned, then we send in Ellen. She has a very hard hitting chain attack. So I'm gonna cancel that.
I see your weak spot.
Then we go to our basic rotation. And the enemy is dead. Now a lot of people that might just have started playing, they will pick up Ellen, they won't really read, and they will have no idea what they're doing. And if we had done that same rotation but without having frost freeze charges, that enemy probably wouldn't have been dead. Ellen does almost no damage if she's out of charges. Alright, that's the combat part of Ellen. Now let's talk about some other stuff. And actually, let me switch account as well. Alright, now we're on my account with my Ellen. So let's talk about her drive this. So a lot of people, they will just look at Ellen's recommended and then they will go for this, a 4-piece polar metal and a 2-piece woodpecker electro. Possibly a 2-piece branch blade song. Now most of Ellen's best teams these days doesn't include any other ice agents. So Ellen's additional ability will not be activated and there isn't gonna be that much freeze happening because Ellen is the only freeze agent and she doesn't have that much anomaly mastery. What polar metal does, it's the 2-piece ice damage plus 10%. And then for the 4-piece increase the damage of basic attack and dash attack by 20%. And then when any squad member inflicts freeze or shatter, this effect increased by additional 20% for 12 seconds. Now, this is all and well, obviously Ellen benefits from it, but the real kicker here is the full value of this you get if you run the old school Ellen team, which used to be Lycon and Sokaga. Then there were quite a lot of freeze happening, but if you run Ellen with Caesar and Lighter and Astra, I would say stay away from polar metal. But if you have multiple ice agents, if you still run her with Lycon, if you run her with Sokaga, polar metal is still valuable. Even then, it is kind of on par with the woodpecker electro. Now, what is nice with woodpecker is that we are going to be doing a lot of basic attacks, dodge counters, and EX special attacks. So for the most part, Ellen is able to fully stack this one out. So if you're not running Ellen in a mono ice team, I'd say get her away from the polar metal, instead get her on a 4-piece woodpecker with a complementary of 2-piece branch and blade song. Now you will see that I have Puffer Electro. It's simply because I have a fully maxed out Ellen, and at M6 she gains 20% more pen ratio, and pen ratio gets better the more you stack it, so my Ellen is at her very finest with Puffer Electro. Another thing I wanted to do that kind of skyrockets Ellen's power level a little bit is look what team you're running and then adapt Disc 5 accordingly. If you run it with Lighter, and Lighter provides like already a massive amount of ice damage bonus, then running ice damage bonus on 5 is not advised. But if you're running her with, say, not Lighter, and say you have Sokaku and, you know, a stun of your choice, say Lycon, and Sokaku provides Ellen with a massive attack bonus, then running ice is better. So, like, you kind of want to even out your Ellen. Like, if she already has 6,000 attack with all buffs applied, you know, don't run attack on 5, instead then run ice damage bonus or pen ratio. Like, the team I most often run my Ellen with is Caesar and Lighter. Caesar gives her 1,500 attack, and Lighter provides her with 75% ice damage bonus. So in order to get the most out of those two buffs, running pen ratio is actually like more beneficial for me. So there is a thing called stat saturation, where if you stack a stat, like you would kind of experience a diminishing return, or rather you would get more value out of that stat if you also like invest into other stats instead. The one exception to this is pen ratio, because it just increases in value the more of it you stack. And if we go to base stats, we can kind of see what stats are being highlighted in yellow, and for Ellen it is crit rate and crit damage. In my opinion, it should also be attack, because she's just standard attack radiant. She wants crit rate, crit damage, and she wants a bunch of attack. Now I have quite good discs, and I have her engine. It's like my Ellen is kind of decked out as one of my like strongest characters. So ask yourself how are the stats on your Ellen looking? Another thing that will obviously increase Ellen's damage potential is making sure that her skills are leveled. Upgrade suggestion tells us core skill, basic attack, and EX special, and I would kinda agree. And if I had to do one change, I'd probably also put the ultimate up at priority, because a lot of her damage comes from her ultimate when we hit a stun enemy, and her chain attack is not too shabby at all. Now, one little gripe I have with Ellen is that her charged scissor damage multiplier is insanely low, and I would have liked to see this one bumped up a lot. But it is what it is. And a lot of people's like biggest gripes with Ellen is that she is lacking iframes on some stuff that makes her a little bit cumbersome to use. That's why I find that a very convenient teammate for Ellen is Caesar. Because if I do play my Ellen with Caesar, my Ellen doesn't get interrupted mid-combo or, you know, mid-charge scissor strike. But I absolutely freaking love Ellen. Like, I consider myself being an Ellen main. Miyabi is a shit ton stronger, no question about it. I find myself using Ellen anyway, because I just really like Ellen's playstyle. One thing you have to realize, and I touched upon this earlier, they made her the fastest character for a reason. Use her speed to your advantage. If you're lacking Caesar, make sure that you dash away a little bit and then go in for the charge scissor strike, because most enemies then won't hit you because they're gonna be too busy walking towards you. Her scissor strike does take her a big chunk of distance. And she's one of the most convenient characters to like use if you need to get away from a big explosion. Like if you're fighting Trashian, for example, and he, puts his spear in the ground and makes the ground erupt. Ellen makes it out of there, no problem whatsoever. Now, if you have good reaction times, you can just also, perfect dodge it. But yeah, to sum it all up here at the end, make sure that you manage your flash freeze charges correctly. Do not start an attack string combo if you have less than 3. And remember her basic rotation 1, 2, 3, EX free, EX free. Make sure that before an enemy is stunned, you've saved up enough resources. You're good on energy, you're good on your flash freeze. And remember, whenever you go into restack your flash freezes, make sure that if possible, you've recently dodged the enemy so you have the quick charge effect so you can do it faster. Her second EX special is good because that one does give you a lot of iframes. It has quite a good area, but if we're talking just single target damage, more often than not, it's more useful to not go into the second one and only do EX third instead of doing EX third. Don't be too hung up on polar metal, especially if you're running Ellen as your only ice character. And if anybody is wondering, switching Ellen to Anomaly Mastery on Disc 6 and running Branch and Blade Song is not worth it. I've tried. And if you're watching this hoping that your newfound Ellen knowledge will take your Ellen to Miyabi levels, I hate to break it to you, but that's not gonna happen. Miyabi is simply broken. Ellen is a good unit, Miyabi is a broken unit, and at the same investment level, they are not even close. But Ellen is a super fun character, and she's quite hard to master. And if I can help populate the oceans with more sharks, more Ellen mains, I I'll happily do so, and this is my little contribution to maybe make people, unlock the hidden potential of Ellen. And I would say if I were to start over today and I'd be pulling for Ellen, I'd probably rather go for like Ellen's M1 rather than her engine, even if her engine is very, very good, just because the quality of life that her M1 gives her. And I do think that it is a little bit of a shame how much time an M0 Ellen has to spend like just getting her flash freeze charges. Meanwhile, it just happens more naturally while you're fighting, like the more mindscapes you have on her. Peeps, if you learned anything new about Ellen in this video, feel super free to leave a thumbs up. And if you have any additional tips and comments for your fellow Ellen mains, please make sure to slap it down in the comment section. And if you enjoy more Zenless Zone Zero content, I put it out kinda every freaking day. And for any fellow Ellen enthusiasts, I am in talks with some very talented people to make something kinda cool, kinda Ellen related, so stay tuned for more info on that. Thank you so very much for watching. Until next time, Hako out.